This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. The names of the people killed in the Carberry bus crash will be released on Thursday. Investigators continue their work to learn more about what led to the crash. 15 people were killed and another 10 were injured. Community leaders are now planning a public memorial. CBC's Alana Cole is in Dauphin.
Church bells ring outside. Inside, 25 candles, 10 for those in hospital, 15 for those who died.
We always light candles, it's a spiritual connection.
On Thursday in Dauphin, RCMP will officially name the 15 people killed when a bus carrying seniors on a day trip to the casino in Carberry collided with a semi-trailer. Plans are being made for a memorial service Thursday night, one that brings the whole community together.
We all grieve in different ways, because in a small community, everybody knows everybody. So some of them belong to our churches. Some of their children we know, or grandchildren we know. And it's very important as a community that we heal together.
The victims in the crash are from Dauphin and surrounding area. Superintendent Stephen Jadek with the Mountain View School Division knows how connected people are and how hard this hits. Jadek is working to support the school community.
It's somebody's baba, it's somebody's grandmother, it's somebody's auntie, it's somebody's godmother. So the repercussions are wide, and you don't know until you ask.
Shared Health says 10 people remain in hospital, 5 in critical care. One is 85-year-old Josephine Stokatelny. She's lived in the area her whole life. This tragedy is felt by families, communities, and first responders. An organization, Project Resilience 911, is holding a debrief in Carberry tonight for those first responders and witnesses. An organizer says it's critical to offer mental health support to people who were at the scene that day. Alana Cole, CBC News, Dauphin.
A 2-year-old boy has died after drowning in Portage la Prairie. RCMP say the boy wandered away from his family and drowned in a nearby retention pond. He's the 3rd kid to drown in Manitoba in less than a week. On Thursday, a 23-month-old boy was found in a lake outside his home in Garden Hill First Nation. The toddler died in hospital 3 days later. A 10-year-old also drowned over the weekend in St. Teresa Point First Nation. 2 new faces will be representing the province in Parliament. Manitobans follow traditional voting patterns in both the Portage-Lisgar and Winnipeg South Centre ridings during yesterday's by-election. CBC's Brittany Greenslade breaks it down.
Manitobans in 2 open federal ridings overwhelmingly voted to stay the course Monday night. Liberal Ben Carr will follow in his father's footsteps and head to Ottawa, while the People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier couldn't manage to get his foot in the door.
Winnipeg South Centre saw a record-setting ballot with 48 candidates listed, including former MP Jim Carr's son, Ben. Carr pulled in more than 55% of the vote, according to unofficial results. During his victory speech, the former school principal thanked his father's former staffers who worked on his campaign, and he paid respects to his dad.
Whatever awaits me in my time as a member of Parliament, I promise to continue abiding by the values that he instilled in me. To be a kind person, curious, honest, hopeful, and full of life, just as he was.
In Portage-Lisgar, Conservative Brandon Leslie took just under 55% of the votes, while Maxime Bernier pulled in just over 17%. The seat was left empty after former interim Conservative leader Candice Bergen resigned earlier this year. During his speech, Leslie promised to fight the carbon tax and proposed gun laws introduced by Trudeau's Liberals.
This by-election is a strong message from our community that we want change. We want common sense.
While Bernier didn't manage to win a seat, the controversial party leader says it's only the beginning for him and his party in the area. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Liberals also held their seat in Montreal's Notre-Dame-de-Grâce Westmount riding, and Conservatives kept the rural Ontario riding of Oxford County. Portage-la Prairie could soon welcome its biggest production facility since the Roquette pea processing plant started operating a few years ago. This new facility could be worth billions to Manitoba's economy. CBC's Ian Fraze explains.
A new processing facility is planning for takeoff. It'll help the aviation industry, local farmers, and Manitoba at large.
We are paving the way for Manitoba to be a hub for innovative and green technologies.
The facility will produce sustainable aviation fuel, a gas made from crops like canola that's blended in with conventional fuel. The plan is to manufacture the fuel at a facility west of Portage-la Prairie. They'll need 150 full-time employees, and the facility will have a $2 billion impact on Manitoba's economy. No facility like this exists in Canada, but AZUR is trying to change that. On Tuesday, the federal and provincial governments pledged nearly $3 million toward an engineering study. AZUR is choosing Portage because it's close to rail and close to the canola and soybeans they need to make the sustainable fuel.
We're close to some of the most largest amount of feedstock here on the continent.
This facility isn't cleared for landing yet. In the years to come, a bunch of approvals like environmental permissions are needed. The Premier says her government will help wherever possible.
What we want to do is break down any barriers that are in the way of getting this done.
The facility could be ready to operate by 2028. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Portage-la Prairie.
Leveling the playing field for small Manitoba craft breweries. The province is changing the retail markup structure so smaller producers keep more of their profits. The move is meant to help expand their business and compete with bigger breweries. The change will allow smaller producers to keep more of their profits so they can expand their breweries.
I think this framework basically levels the playing field, not just for Manitoba breweries, but for small craft breweries. How many breweries are entering the Manitoba market from Ontario and BC that are significantly larger than us and have the efficiencies built in?
The Manitoba Brewers Association says the small craft liquor market is less than 10% of Manitoba's $350 million a year beer market. The changes take place July 1st. It's World Refugee Day, and Winnipeggers celebrated the occasion in Central Park. The theme for today's event was A Dance in Paradise. Organizers say they wanted to mark the shift from hardship to joy by honoring newcomers who fled persecution and war to start a new life in Canada.
Refugee life is usually difficult, and there's nothing else that they're known for except just that the difficulties. So today we're trying to dance and have a good time, and also remember our brothers and sisters that are still back home, and tell them that we're here and we're in a good paradise, which is Canada and Winnipeg.
Hundreds took part in the event, including refugee support groups and elementary and high school students. They heard stories about the refugee experience and enjoyed a taste of traditional dishes. A former Winnipeg teenager is back in town to help the city's homeless. 15-year-old Zach Weinberg has brought his Zach Pack project here. CBC's Zubina Ahmed explains.
Do you know what's inside this dry backpack? It has all the essential items for the homeless people in Winnipeg.
Inside each Zach Pack is a waterproof sleeping bag. That's the largest, most important item. Then an emergency blanket, reusable water bottle, socks, hat, granola bars, and hygiene items. Those are all being packed into the Zach Packs at our assembly line as we speak.
It's 15-year-old Zach Weinberg's project. He started it in Vancouver in 2020. He wanted to give back to his hometown of Winnipeg.
I felt inspired to give back because I felt a lot of empathy for this group, and I realized that despite being so vulnerable, they're often overlooked because there's a lot of stigma around people experiencing homelessness and substance abuse that prevents people from giving back.
And the goal is to distribute them to 1,200 homeless people in Winnipeg. End Homelessness Winnipeg, Marymount, and True North Youth Foundation are all the local groups behind this project. Marty Yeager is the director of Marybound.
We know that some people are homeless for a longer period of time, so the packs can help with the safety issue of being on the street.
Weinberg is thankful for all the help. He has a call to action to young people in Canada.
Perhaps I'd like to issue a bit of a call to action to any youth across Canada. Anything that you feel passionate about, contribute to, because even though it might just be for one day, if a lot of people do that, that can make a world of difference.
The backpacks will go to 5 outreach organizations. Weinberg hopes his passion inspires more people to give back. Sabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And we're joined now by CBC meteorologist John Sauter. John, it's still so hot out there.
Yeah, you know, the record high for today is 36.7, set back in 1910. Almost got there within a degree or so. Right now we're at 35, and it feels like somebody's blowing a big hairdryer full blast at us.
That does feel like that,
Yeah, it's very windy. Let's get right to the current conditions, and lots to show you on Lightning Tracker as well. South winds right now at 37, gusting to 57. They've been sustained at about 40, gusting to 60 through the day today. This was at 36. This was at 21 earlier. Dew point really up there, so not just hot and windy, it's humid as well, and boy, that's leading to some pretty decent potential here for some severe weather. This red shaded area is the target. That's where we could see baseball-sized hail, wind gusts at 110 kilometers per hour, and yes, the possibility of a tornado. Nothing has been spotted so far. What we are seeing is training thunderstorms up through the Interlake, and this has just been a constant all day today. I'll show you a picture from Fisherton in a minute, but it's a picture of hail. But training means that the line is moving, well, the line is sort of situated on the map in the same direction that it's moving. So certain locations will get storm after storm after storm and a huge amount of rain. And then in that target area I was talking about, we are seeing storms form. We had a severe thunderstorm warning around Portage earlier. That has now ended, but storms are still to the southwest. These pink colors and purple colors you see here, that's very heavy rainfall rates. There is still a warning in that area. Grindstone, Hecla, off toward Barons River, and lots of lightning with this, and torrential rain and some pretty big hail as well. No warnings, just a watch that does include the Red River Valley and Winnipeg. So this one was the one that was warned around Portage. It is now dissipating. There is another big stretch of storms moving up toward Manitou and Pilot Mound. Eileen sent this in earlier from Fisherton, Manitoba. She said that they had about 1.5 inches of rain. That's 42 to 45 millimeters, and it was still raining this afternoon when she sent that. Look at the CAPE values. That's convective available potential energy. I want to show you this because I want to show you that tomorrow is a quieter day with not as much storm energy available. All right, futurecast as we go into the night tonight. This is what it may look like at 10:30 tonight. Again, west and north of the city, and more of this storm activity in the Interlake area. Tomorrow morning, it shifts to the east into the Red River Valley. So showers and storms in the morning in Winnipeg, and then again in the afternoon, a little bit farther to the east. And then on Thursday morning, the last little gasp before we start to clear and get some sunshine and more comfortable temperatures. So 20 tonight. Very humid overnight, only dropping to 20, 23 in the morning. A risk of showers and storms tomorrow is at about 40%. As we look at the north, we're looking at quieter weather in western regions and the energy for showers or storms shifting out to the east. Looks pretty good tomorrow around Dauphin, Swan River. Chance of showers in Brandon. Showers or storms for Portage and down through Morden, Winkler, and Carman, and the rest of the southeast, and not quite as warm. The chance for storms at about 40%, and then off into northwestern Ontario. Still a warm day with a chance for a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon in Red Lake.
Thank you, John. The clock is ticking for the mission to rescue people in a submersible that was headed for the wreck of the Titanic. And that story coming up. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. time is running out to rescue people in a submersible off the coast of Newfoundland. It was headed for the wreck of the Titanic when it disappeared. This afternoon, the U.S. Coast Guard said there was about 40 hours worth of oxygen left for the 5 people on board, but so far, the widespread search has yielded nothing. CBC's Alison Northcott reports.
The U.S. Coast Guard says the rescue mission is a complex and difficult operation, more than 600 kilometers off the coast of Newfoundland. A search from the surface of the water to deep beneath it. The Titan, a 7-meter submersible, disappeared as it dove deep under the water to see the wreckage of the Titanic and lost contact with the mothership it had been communicating with. The vessel had been communicating with the ship by text message. Because it was going so deep underwater, it couldn't rely on GPS signals. But those messages stopped after about an hour and 45 minutes into the voyage. There are 5 people on board. They started their journey with 96 hours worth of oxygen, but it could run out by Thursday. The Coast Guard says it's doing everything it can with help from Canada's Coast Guard and Armed Forces, the U.S. Navy, and the company that owns the submersible, Ocean Gate Expeditions. But officials say it's an extremely complicated process.
You're talking about a search area that's 900 miles east of Cape Cod, 400 miles south of St. John's. So logistically speaking, it's hard to bring assets to bear. It takes time, it takes coordination. And then we're dealing with, 2 pieces of, you're dealing with a surface search and a subsurface search. And frankly, that makes it an incredibly complex operation.
Reportedly on the submersible, British billionaire Hamish Harding described in a statement from his company and family as an explorer and an entrepreneur. Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman, chief executive and founder of Ocean Gate Expeditions Stockton Rush, and French Titanic expert Paul-Henri Nargeolet. The Coast Guard says it's trying to get all of the equipment it needs to the site, but it hasn't said how it would bring the vessel back up to the surface if it is found. Every hour counts in this kind of search, but the Coast Guard says despite extensive efforts, it still has found no sign of the vessel. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
The Prime Minister offered his condolences to family and friends of Canadian Armed Forces members who were killed in a military helicopter crash overnight in eastern Ontario. The chopper went down near Petawawa last night during what was said to be a training exercise. CBC's Kate McKenna has the latest.
Crews are combing the Ottawa River, and the community is waiting for an update. Officials say there were 4 people on board the downed Chinook, and today the Prime Minister confirmed that there have been fatalities.
I was happy to speak with the Chief of Defence Staff last night to express my condolences on for the families and colleagues of the members who've been killed. The fact is there will be a thorough investigation. There will be answers to give, but right now we're focusing on notification of families and support.
Earlier today, authorities said 2 crew members were taken to hospital and are expected to survive. A major search is underway for signs of the other 2 officially declared missing. Griffin and Hercules aircraft are deployed. The Ontario Provincial Police and local fire departments also sent help. The Department of National Defence says the Chinook was doing a training exercise just after midnight. The crash happened in the Ottawa River, not far from where the helicopter took off.
Aircraft operating at that time of night is doing training on night vision goggles. It's training for the missions that the Chinook is prepared for, whether that's transport of combat troops like in Afghanistan or the medevac role that it did in Mali. They would be doing any one of a number of things, navigation training, hover training, or sling load training. Any one of those things could have been done as it was working at that time of night.
The loss and uncertainty are being felt throughout the small town of 17,000 people.
It's a very emotional day for us here in Petawawa. First and foremost, our thoughts go out to the crew members of the helicopter, their families, all of the members of 450 Squadron, and all of the members here on Garrison Petawawa.
That impact is sure to be felt in the days and weeks ahead. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Petawawa, Ontario.
People in and around Edson, Alberta can't get a break. Fire forced thousands from their homes, and then came the rain. A month's worth of rain fell in a matter of hours, forcing local authorities to declare a state of emergency. Roads are closed and some infrastructure is overwhelmed. The downpours have delayed discussion about when people who fled the fire can go home. Palestinian gunmen shot and killed at least 4 people today in the West Bank. The attack happened at a gas station and restaurant frequented by Israeli settlers. One of the attackers was shot by a civilian. Israeli security forces say they later killed the accomplice. The Hamas militant organization says both attackers were members. It says today's shooting was in response to an Israeli raid yesterday at a refugee camp that killed 6 Palestinians. French police conducted a search today of the headquarters of the Paris 2024 Olympic Organizing Committee. Officials say it's part of a probe into alleged corruption tied to contracts linked to the Games. They say the raids are part of 2 preliminary corruption investigations. The committee released a statement saying it's fully cooperating with authorities. Corruption allegations have been made against the world's biggest sporting event on a number of occasions. Authorities investigated allegations of corruption involving the 2016 Rio Olympics and the 2020 Tokyo Games. The Paris Games will be held next summer from July 26th to August 11th. Still to come, John Sauter will be back with the 7-day forecast, and we'll have the Daily Lift. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
It's that time of year when some people can get copious amounts of rain, torrential rainfall amounts, and others not far away, not very much. That's what's happening up here in the Interlake. This shaded area is still a severe thunderstorm warning, including Hecla, Grindstone, plenty of lightning here. And then this whole area is the area to watch tonight west of the Red River Valley, where we may even see a storm here through the Winnipeg area. More of that tomorrow, non-severe storms, a little bit cooler, and then again on Thursday morning. And then we get a little more stable weather to end off the week. Saturday, though, cloudy, afternoon, evening rain, some showers as well on Sunday morning. So I mentioned it's that time of year for that weather. It's also that time of year when kids put on their fanciest clothes and attend school graduations, whether it's elementary, high school, or university. It's always a bright, fun, and optimistic event.
It sure is, and that was the scene today at the University of Winnipeg, where graduates of the education program celebrated with family and friends. Here's your Daily Lift.
I'm Bachelor's of Education in Arts.
Bachelor's of Arts in Geography and Bachelor's of Education.
The Faculty of Education.
I did this degree because I live in a neighborhood and I want to teach in my neighborhood, and I'm one step closer to doing that.
I'm really excited to teach the younger generation and just see what I can learn from them as well. I'm optimistic to change the lives of students in my future classroom.
Just with all the grads here today, there's lots of us, so it's exciting, but kind of intimidating to see what the future holds for all of us.
I'm going to celebrate today. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm just thinking about today.
Very optimistic about the future.
I know someone else who graduated from U of W.
You?
No, my wife, Kim. Yeah. Very proud to be a former student of that great school.
Yeah, well, I can see that our future's in good hands. It was really nice to hear from those grads. That was the CBC Winnipeg News. We'll be back at 11. Have a great evening.
Good night.